So today we're going to be talking about calculation, which is the ability to see into the future in chess, right? So if you worked for me, and I said if you have to work on Saturday or you're fired, I can kind of predict the future, can't I? Right? Because I'm forcing an outcome. Okay. So if I'm making a threat, I can kind of limit my opponent's responses to intelligent replies. So if I take a piece of yours, that's a forcing move, because if you don't recapture right away, then I can just retreat that piece and be up a piece. So it's take it or not, take it now or never kind of deal, right? So I can say, well, there's only one way for him to recapture. So in that sense, I can predict the future with a high percentage of accuracy. There are other forcing moves, such as checks. Checks are even more powerful than captures because I can ignore a capture if I want, but I can't ignore a check. And of course, by rule of the game, I must get out of check, right? And then the last kind of forcing move would be a threat of some sort. So a threat to make a check or a capture. Okay, sometimes those are called tactics, whatever you want to call it, right? So we use forcing moves to try to predict the future. And why do we want to predict the future? Why is that important in chess?
Because if we can predict the future, we can have success. We can be successful in what we're trying to do.
Right. So I want to be able to judge the position. And then I want to go down this forcing line and come to a conclusion and say, this is equal for me and my opponent.
Okay.
If I go down another forcing line and I say, okay, this is also equal, and this one's losing. So I have three different lines I look down. They're all forcing. I can make them all happen.
Right.
But two are equal and one is losing. Now I get to choose between two equals.
Okay.
But if one of them happens to be winning, right, I can force a winning position onto the board, right? And that has nothing to do with luck. It has everything to do with seeing, vision, right, and judging. Also, if I go down a forcing line and I see that it's losing for me, I can avoid it, right? So a lot of people will play tactics and they'll practice tactics, but they don't practice evaluating the position at the end of the, right? Because if you're not comparing the end results, then what's the point of calculating, right? So like if I said, which is cheaper, $6 for a dozen or 2 dozen for $3? Like, I mean, you'd have to calculate and then compare your results at the end. Most people do the calculation and they never compare. Right? And so chess is all about choices, right? It's about making better choices. Well, we can't make better choices unless we see the choices, first of all, calculate them to their proper end, judge them, compare them, and then choose, right? So here is a pretty simple position. It's, I think, black is down a rook. Actually, I believe there's a rook here anyway. It doesn't change the outcome of the game. All right, so here, we want to start our calculation with forcing moves, okay? Now, sometimes forcing moves don't come to anything, okay? Maybe all of my checks, my captures, and my threats will come to nothing.
Right.
Then I make an improving move, okay? But I want to check my checks, captures, and threats first, because if there's an imminent win on the board, I want to play it now instead of playing a quiet move and missing the opportunity, and perhaps my opponent would spoil it in the next move, right? So here, what I do is I ask my students, I'll say, tell me all the checks in the position. Not just the smart ones, not just the safe ones, all of them. So in this position here, what are all the checks?
We have the queen to h7.
Queen takes h7 check. Good. Any other checks?
No.
So that's great, because now it makes our job easy. We only have one thing to look at. Most people would look at this and say, it's a terrible move, I'm giving up the queen for a pawn, and they would be worried about this guy over here.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I better retreat and get my rook over here to stop the pawn because it's gonna become a queen, right? And this is sometimes how we play out of fear, right? We make a decision based on an emotion, not based on a calculation and a judgment, right? So here we have to look at the check. And most people do this and they say, this is terrible. And they stop here. And then they go back to their emotional problem, right? But the thing is, calculation, we have to learn to ask the question, if, and then, if, then, if, then, if, then, for as far as you can possibly go. And with practice, you'll be shocked how far you can actually go. But you have to ask the question, right? You have to ask if, you have to ask then. If you don't ask the question, the board isn't going to reveal its secret to you.
Absolutely.
But your brain will discover it, but only if you ask it. Like I have a really powerful calculator on my phone. If I don't ask it to do the calculation, it's useless to me. Well, our brains will do nothing unless we give it input in the form of a question. Then it'll give it output. So if this, then
Takes the queen.
Yep, takes the queen. And then, do I have any checks, captures, threats?
Yes. Check here.
Yeah, check. And then,
He has to move from check.
right?
Puts him still into check. So that's
So this is checkmate, right? And so at first glance, we have this opportunity that we deny ourselves the possibility of it being any good because we have an emotional problem over here. Right? It's good, right? And this is a very simple one. It's very straightforward. It's all forced by rule of the game. If I play those two moves, the game is over in white's favor. You've won, right? What does it matter if I have an advanced pass pawn if I'm getting checkmated? It doesn't matter at all, right? Okay, let's try another one. I'll give you a new. This one is a little more complicated. You'll play the black pieces. I'll set up the white pieces.
If either of us take, if I take too much
This is here.
Like I was just telling Eddie, like
Good.
if the clock wasn't
That looks right to
down,
me.
like you would have never.
Okay, I don't know the answer to this problem yet. Okay, I haven't yet done it. Okay, but the first thing you have to notice is that white is giving check to you. You're in check. Okay, so when you're in check, there's nothing to think about.
right.
It's not like, well, should I do right? Except, how should I get out of check? Can you name the different kinds of ways to get out of check? There are 3.
I guess evade or move.
Okay.
Check. Protect, like capture whatever's checking me.
Okay, capturing what's checking you.
There's only 2 I'm on.
Okay, and you can block.
Oh, you can block. That's
Right. So move, capture, block.
Move, capture, block.
That's right. Say it again.
Move, capture, block.
That's
All
it.
right.
So it's funny because when people get in check, it's funny how they talk.
Okay.
Because they'll often say, oh, I have to move my king. Is that true?
No,
It's not true.
it's not true.
Right? I have to move my king is not true. There are 3 types of ways to get out of check: move, capture, block. And when you say something, you might know that you can capture and block. That knowledge is in here. You know that. But when you say I have to move my king, guess what your brain says? Oh, I have to move my king, and it'll only look at king moves, and you're going to overlook a possibly greater move. What are the chances that the first move I come up with is going to be the best move on the board 100% of the time?
No,
But isn't this how we play?
that is how we play.
Right? I'm in check. Well, this gets me out of check, I'll play it.
Right.
But we don't consider candidate moves. Candidate moves are all the things that solve the issue at hand. And I'm going to choose the one that best fits into the plan I already have. Right? That helps me advance my plan. Even when I'm in check, I'm going to consider all the options and then calculate a move or two. You don't have to go 20 moves deep, go 3 moves. I move, he moves, I move. Like, that's great. Or he moves, I move, he moves. If you can see that far in advance, you're going to see all the tactical, problems, right?
Absolutely.
You don't really have to see 100 moves in advance. Okay, so you're in check. Okay, so you have to get out of check. So what are all the moves to get out of check? Moves.
So moves.
Yes.
So I can move here to be out of check, and that's it right here. I got one move out of check.
Good. You only have one move to get out of check. Okay. All the other ones are not legal.
Correct.
How about captures? Do you have any captures?
I have one capture,
Yeah.
which would be the knight to b3 to get the queen.
Okay. All right. And do you have any blocks?
I have one block, but it's not a good one. 'Cause-
Okay. I didn't ask that. I didn't ask your opinion.
That's good. I have one block. I have one blocking move.
That's right. So yeah, we can't judge yet because we didn't look.
Right.
This is called bias,
Okay.
and we have it in life and in chess. We have it everywhere, right? You're driving down the street, you see a kid wearing baggy pants, you're like, what a bum, right? We have bias. That kid could own his own company. What do I know, right? We have this bias, right? This could be the winning game. It could be the most brilliant game of the century, brilliant move of the century. We don't know yet. Okay. It does look like trash, I admit. Especially compared to the other move that you already saw. So, of those three options, there's king to, this would be h8, but it's backwards. Okay, so king to h8, rook to g7, and knight takes g6. Which one seems most interesting to you?
Well, the knight.
Yeah, all right, so that's the one you start with. Here are my three options. I'm going to use my intuition. The knight, the queen capture looks really good.
It looks really good.
Yeah, all right. So now we're going to do what? If, then.
Right, correct.
So if knight takes g6, then
knight takes my queen.
yeah, knight takes d8.
D8.
Okay. And then do you have any checks?
I do have one check. I can take my bishop and put the king in check there. And if I do that,
Then
he can either move here, which would be put him in check there, so that takes that away, or he can block with the bishop here.
Okay.
Put the bishop there.
And then
And then I would take his knight with my.
Nope.
No. Like,
so you take here, I take here.
and then I have nothing, no recourse.
And this is a trade.
Right.
So right now we've traded queens.
Right.
I made a move, you blocked, or I blocked. And now if I take here, you take here, everything's equal.
Right.
So, do you have any checks?
I do have one. I have a check here.
It's also a capture.
Capture and a check.
This is your forcing move.
That's right. Okay, so I'm forcing. If I force here, he takes there, and then I would take the rook.
And you win a
then I
piece.
would- then I would win a
And I can't take because it's guarded. One attacker, one defender. So now let's do an assessment at the end.
Okay.
Who's winning?
Right now I have two rooks. So it's 5 and 5 is 10, right?
Yeah.
Are we counting points? Is that what you mean? Or are you just talking about pieces, or like what do you mean when you're asking who's winning?
In your
my
opinion, who's
opinion-
winning?
I mean, I would say that you're winning at this point in time because
White is winning?
yes. Well, I have more developed pieces though, so I don't know. That's a true answer. I don't know.
Well, that's a good place to start, right? So this is what I do. Okay, the way to evaluate a position is you have to look at two factors. One is the material factor.
Okay.
That's a big one. And two is where those pieces are on the board. That's called position. So position and material, those two things. Right now the position is about equal as far as, although black has a lot more active pieces, right? I'm invading your space, you're not invading mine at all, right? My rooks are active, or your rooks are active, mine are not. So you're actually winning in position and you're winning in material. So this is how I count. These cancel out with these. This cancels out with this. This is extra. 2, 4, 6, 7, 2, 4. So I'm down 3 pawns for a piece. It's actually equal material, but the position is much favoring white. Plus, compared to the attack white had a moment ago, right? And it looked so good for white. Now we see that it is, just losing for white, right? Okay, so now we're going to try one more, but this time we're going to try to do it without moving the pieces.
All right.
Because that's real calculation, okay? All right, so we'll set up this. I'll play the white pieces, you play the black. I think we're good. We just double check yours and you double check mine. Looks good. All right. All right, so now we're going to do something that we didn't do before. We're going to evaluate the position from the start. Okay? So you're playing black. Let's start with a material count. So let's cancel things out and go in order. Go in order from hierarchy. Start with queens, rooks, minor pieces, which are bishops and rooks, and then pawns.
Okay.
And just cancel them out.
Queens,
They cancel.
rooks,
Cancel.
bishops.
Yep, so I just go 1, 2, 3 minor pieces, 1, 2, 3, cancel. And then I count pawns by threes. 3, 6. 3, 6. Materials equal. All right, position. Who has pieces more active, activated, safer king? Tell me.
I would say you're definitely more activated than I am.
Okay.
In this building.
All right, so it looks as though white has a slight advantage, right? Okay, but now it's time to look into the position. It's black's turn to move. The last move on the board was castling. Okay, the first thing you ask is, why did my opponent do that? What does he want? Am I being attacked?
Absolutely.
So why did I castle?
Why did you cast it? Cast it to protect the king because you have so much kind of played out. You want to kind of tuck him in a little bit more.
Right, protect the king. It develops the rook, gets the rook into the play. Gets the king out of the center, which is the same thing as making him safe, right? All right, but are you being attacked by this move? Am I threatening to take some kind of material or to checkmate you or anything like that?
No.
Okay, so that means you're not being attacked. That means you get to you have a free hand. I'm not this was not a forcing move. This was not a check. This was not a capture. This is not a threat. Okay, so I'm not forcing your hand. So you have a free hand, free move. So now what should you start looking at first?
Check if I have any that can check me or put you into check.
Yes. So do you have any checks with any pieces, good or bad?
I have a capture check
Okay.
on the black profile here.
So bishop here.
Yep.
Okay. Let's do it
Well, we're
without
not
moving the
we're not
pieces
moving
this time.
pieces.
Yep.
Sorry
Yep.
about
Yep.
that. So if I move and capture your bishop here, then your queen has the ability to take my bishop.
Okay.
there.
So if bishop takes check, queen takes, then
Then after the queen takes, then I'm still not in danger of being checked, so I get to proceed again to try to put the king back into
correct.
check.
Okay. So bishop takes, queen takes. That's forced
Right.
because if he moves the king, you win the queen too.
Right.
Okay. So
Right.
We can force this position on the board.
Correct.
Now, in this position, I want you to hold this position in your mind.
Okay.
Okay, do you see it?
Yes.
Hold it in your mind.
Okay.
We can make that position happen. So now create that position in your mind. Now look for any kind of checks, captures, or threats.
Outside of that or with that?
Here.
With that. Okay, I got you. I can make a threat
Yes.
at that point in time.
What threat?
I can push my pawn forward and put the knight and queen in danger.
There you go. So this is called a value attack.
Okay.
Okay. I call it a value attack because you're using a cheaper piece to threaten a more expensive piece, and not just one. This is a double attack, a double value attack, right? There's also something called a number attack where you have 3 attackers against 2 defenders.
Okay.
Okay. There's also a mate attack where I've got my queen and my bishop aimed right at your king, right? Or a back rank mate threat or something like that. Okay. And so this is going to guarantee the winning of material for black.
Yes.
Okay. Now the question is, why doesn't it work right away?
If I push the pawn up,
Yeah.
you're asking?
Does it work right away?
If I push the pawn up, it puts the bishop in the. I got the attack here. Bishop. If the bishop takes the pawn to save the knight, I can then take that bishop with either the queen or the bishop and put the king into check at that point in time.
That's right.
And at that time, you should move to block. Or actually, it'd probably be better to move at that point in time, because if you move to block, I'm going to take your queen and without you having a recourse for that.
There you go. Okay, so it actually works right away.
Yeah, it does.
So you have a choice now. You can trade the bishop first, and this is forced, and then you push the pawn. Guarded, it's attacked once, defended once, so this structure holds.
Right.
Okay? Or, whoops, you could play it right away. Now it's important to notice that I can't do this. This doesn't work. Because I could still take,
And you still have to.
and if I take here, it's guarded.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
All of this is forced. This is all predictable and foreseeable and doable, right? So there's a win in this position here where black castles and loses the game. Right? Goes down a whole piece. Now, being up a piece doesn't guarantee the win, but it sure as hell does make it a lot easier, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what advantage? Why is an extra piece an advantage?
You have more. Well, you have more options, right? If you have more pieces, you have more options.
You have more options, right? You have more firepower, right? So, if let's say we're boxing, right? You're a big guy. I wouldn't box you, but if we're boxing, and you had one hand tied behind your back, and I had 2, right? All of a sudden, I've got something to attack you with that you don't have to defend with.
Right.
So I have an advantage, at least in number.
Right.
Okay, maybe not brawn or height, but
You have more. You got more to work.
I got
with.
more to work with, right? And I have more to defend with than you have to attack with.
Right.
So the opposite's true as well. Okay. In addition to that, once I have an extra piece, my plan for the game is super simple. Make equal trades. Trade queen for queen, rooks for rooks, knights for bishops and knights, right? And then once all the trades have been done, I have an extra piece. I mop up all your pawns, I become a queen, checkmate, game over. So that means you don't want to make trades.
Right.
So that means if there's an open file, like this, so let's say I'm up a piece, and you move your rook to the open file. Well, I challenge you on that open file, and if you don't move it, then I'm going to trade. because that's what I want to do.
Absolutely.
So you have to avoid the trade, and now I get the open file. So I either make a trade or get every line I want, right? And then, of course, I can use my extra force to gang up on a piece of yours, or to break through into your position and start attacking pawns, right? So not everything is straight up the middle, like going for checkmate, right? So like our game at the beginning when you sacrificed on h7, right? And it was just too soon, too aggressive. You didn't have backup, right? Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's calculation. What do you think?
Awesome.
All right, you want to play a game?
Yes, sir.